The Tsar 4 class, also known as the Reshev class, is one of the most successful missile boats of all times. The vessel of this class had a big part in Israel's survival in most critical moments. They accomplished the tasks beyond what is expected from a missile boat. Now, we're investigating the Tsar 4 class, a true naval legend. Please don't forget to subscribe to our channel before we start, and give us a thumbs up if you like our video. To be notified of our new video, please click the bell button. Although the Tsar 4 class is not a pioneer of the use of anti-ship missiles in modern navies, it is one of the symbolic names. To better understand the birth of this class, let's take a brief look at the developments in the world and Israel in the early 1960s. Since the 1950s, the Soviet Union has been doing important works on anti-ship missiles to balance NATO's mighty fleet. Naturally, this development paved the way for the Western countries, which had comparatively small naval power, to work in this field in a short time. The Royal Norwegian Navy's decision to replace main surface combat ships with missile boats in the early 1960s was the first concrete step in this area. In the same years, the Israeli Navy had realized that its old major surface combatants were obsolete. To protect the country from threats from the sea, Israel needed a new approach. Yet, the Israeli Air Force had the lion's share of the defense budget, and Tel Aviv didn't prioritize financing such a radical change. However, the sinking of the destroyer INS Eile with the Stinks missiles fired from the Komar-class boats of the Egyptian Navy in 1967 revealed the urgency of the situation. In 1968, Israel began to equip some of its Tsar 1 class boats with the locally developed Gabriel missiles. Three of these boats, defined as the Tsar 2 class after modernization, were commissioned. In those years, as the main design criteria, the missile boats were being equipped with only air defense guns. Like the other examples, the Tsar 2 class had an only anti-aircraft gun. However, Israel needed the boats with higher offensive capability. Therefore, in 1968, the Israeli Navy began to commission the Tsar 3 class vessels, which had a 76mm gun. However, these boats didn't fully meet the needs of the Israeli Navy. This was because the Suez Canal was closed after the 1967 Six-Day War. Israel had to operate in both the Mediterranean and the Red Sea, but the naval shipyard in Haifa was in the Mediterranean. So, the Israeli Navy needed a boat capable of navigating around the entire African continent. As an answer to this need, the Tsar 4 class, an enlarged version of the Tsar 3 class, was designed. Different from the Tsar 3 class, which had one 76mm gun, there were two 76mm guns on the Tsar 4 class, so it had nearly twice more offensive capability. The Tsar 4 class could operate up to 3 weeks without replenishment. The first boat of this class, INS Reshev, was commissioned in 1973. Before 1973 Yom Kippur War, the Israeli Navy had already commissioned two Tsar 4 class vessels. Between 1973 and 1980, Israel built 13 boats in this class, 10 for the Israeli Navy and 3 for the South African Navy. Also, another 6 vessels were built locally for the South African Navy. Today, Chile, South Africa, and Sri Lanka are still using their Tsar 4s. Israel is the former user of these boats. The basic model of the vessel used in Israeli service has 45% complement. Their standard displacement is 415 tons, while the fully loaded displacement is 450 tons. The Tsar 4 has a length of 58 meters, a beam of 7.8 meters, and a draught of 2.4 meters. For 15,000 horsepower MTU 16V 956 TB91 diesel provides the maximum speed of 32 knots. The boat can reach the range of 3,055 kilometers with a speed of 30 knots and 7,400 kilometers with a speed of 17.5 knots. The early version of the SAR 4 class had two 76mm guns, two 20mm guns, and six Gabriel anti-ship missiles. There are changes in the specifications of SAR 4 class boats due to the modifications made over time and the criteria determined by different countries for their specific requirements. For example, the Israeli Navy had replaced the bow gun of these boats with the 20mm 6-barrel Mark 15 Phalanx close-in weapon system. Besides, it reduced the number of Gabriel to 4 and fitted 2 to 4 RGM-84 Harpoon anti-ship missiles onto the SAR force. In 1977, Israel heavily modified INS Tarshish of this class for helicopter operations. The 76mm stern gun was dismantled and the boat was fitted with a helipad. This was an experimental work which paved the way for the SAR 4.5 class boats. The Israeli Navy also modified two of these class, INS Nitzishon and INS Atzmaut, for anti-submarine warfare mission. It fitted these vessels with 324mm torpedoes and the EDO 780 lightweight variable depth sonars, which replaced the stern 76mm guns. The South African boats have a length of 62.2 meters and a fully loaded displacement of 430 tons. The complement of these boats is 47 persons. The locally produced version of the Gabriel, the Scorpion missiles, were removed from the vessels. The South African SAR force carry an RHIB boat and a small commando group on board. The South African Navy reclassified them as offshore patrol vessels. These boats have one 76mm and two 20mm guns, as well as two 12.7mm machine guns. The Chilean boats have four 11,880 horsepower MTU 16V 538 TB82 diesel engines. The complement of them is 51 persons. The Gabriel missiles of the CS Anhamos of this class were replaced with four Exocet MM40 missiles in 2013. The SAR 4 class was born to fight. After they were commissioned, INS Reshef and INS Keshet were preparing to sail from the Mediterranean, traveling the entire African continent to the Red Sea. But just before their journey began, the 1973 Yom Kippur War broke out. So they participated in the Battle of Latakia, the first missile boats versus missile boats naval battle in the history. INS Reshef became the first naval vessel fired the Gabriel missile for the first time in combat. She destroyed a Syrian missile boat. INS Keshet participated with her sister in the Battle of Baltam and hit an Egyptian Osa-class missile boat. During the battle, the boat experienced flooding in the front engine room. After she fired the second missile, INS Keshet had to slow down and stop. Because of this reason, the boat disengaged the battle and withdrew towards the Kishin port. After one day of inspection, she was repaired and went back to the war. The two SAR 4 class boats also shelled frequently Egyptian and Syrian coastal targets during the war. In one of these missions, INS Keshet fired a Gabriel against a Syrian Komar class boat, but the missile accidentally hit a Soviet merchant ship. The SAR 4 class had proved itself in real combat, but more importantly, the missile boat design criteria of Israel was more efficient. The powerful countermeasure systems of the Israeli boats had made the Soviet missile ineffective. Also, during the naval battles of the Yom Kippur War, some Syrian and Egyptian boats survived even though they have gotten a hit by a missile. The 76mm guns of the SAR 3 and SAR 4 class vessels sunk these damaged prey. The Komar and Osa class boats had no high caliber guns which can answer the naval gunfire of the Israeli Navy. The impact of the SAR 4 class boats had led Egypt to try new tactics. Cairo had realized that it could not impose a close naval blockade to Israel. Hence, by using one of its Skorki-class destroyers, the Egyptian Navy tried to intercept maritime shipment to Israel from long distance. However, the SAR 4 class had a long range. So, INS Keshet was sent to the area, and Egypt had to pull back its destroyer. Shortly after the war, in 1974, INS Reshef and INS Keshet sailed to the Red Sea. In this voyage, lasted 35 days, they traveled nearly 23,000 kilometers. This was an astonishing success for such a small ship. 2 years later, INS Yavo and INS Tarshish visited the USA. After the Camp David Accord, Egypt left the list of enemies of Israel. In this new peace era, the Tsar IV-class INS Tarshish became the first Israeli naval vessel to pass through the Suez Canal in 1979. But the combat career of these boats had not yet ended. INS Yavo of this class blockaded and shelled the port of Tyre in 1978 after the Coastal Road massacre. She fired about 1,076 mm shells. During this operation, INS Yavo got a hit from astern. The shell penetrated the hull but did not explode. Still, the boat had to leave the area for repairment. During the 1982 Lebanon War, the Tsar IV-class boats secured the main landing in the north of Sidon, shelling the coastal targets. They were also the main elements of the naval blockade of Lebanon. During their service life, the Israeli Tsar IV-class boats continued to play important roles in many other anti-terrorist operations. However, the Middle East of the 1990s was very different from the 1970s. Israel had managed to make peace with Egypt a long time ago. Syria, which was left alone after the end of the First Cold War, was no longer a major threat. Hence, Israel gradually began decommissioning its Tsar force. Two of them were sold to Chile. The Chilean Navy is still using one of them, INS Reshef, with the name CS Anhamos. Yet, INS Tarshish was cannibalized for spares. The Sri Lankan Navy acquired INS Molade and INS Komemai in 2000. These two boats are still in the active list. The anti-submarine warfare version of the Tsar IV class was the last examples in the Israeli Navy. INS Nitzishon and INS Atzmaut were decommissioned in 2014. The Tsar IV class is a vessel which has defined the modern missile boat design criteria. Thanks to it, the naval planners of the world have perceived the importance of high-caliber guns and powerful countermeasure systems on the boats. The Tsar IV class has shown that the missile boats can achieve great successes despite their small size. It's the real proof that these tiny surface combatants could be highly effective not only in coastal waters but in open sea. So, we can easily say that the Tsar IV class is a true naval legend. Thanks for watching our video. And please don't forget to subscribe to our channel and give us a thumbs up if you like our video. To be notified of our new video, please click the bell button.